Yes.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first Copernicus Hackathon webinar, especially a webinar for the hackathon taking place during the first weekend in Bratislava. And let me just share with you what we would like to discuss and share this evening. After the initial introduction, we would go through the basic information about the Copernicus program, following some overview about available data resources, plus we will have introduction to one of the DIAS platforms, which will be used during this event. And after, we can have some session dedicated to the potential questions and answers. With that, this webinar has been prepared by presenters who are coming from different countries and different domains, mainly and namely by Chris Schubert, Tomáš Kliment, myself, Martin Tuchina, and Peter Pastorek. And I'm sure that each of us will have a lot of room to present himself during the event next weekend. So for the overview, this initiative of the hackathons started already some time ago with the already 3 Danube hacks organized in connection to the Central Europe and actually Danube region. And we were quite happy to be selected during the Copernicus Hackathon course, which was launched by the European Commission and with the support of ESO during the spring this year. And based on that, we are organizing 2 webinars and as a main event by hackathon, which will take place during the 6th and 7th of October. In very short, the Copernicus is a flagship initiative and program launched by European Union, which has the main objective to actually provide the monitoring of the Earth and its environment and ecosystems with the set of tools and channels, and to be able to provide stronger response for the crises and security risks and natural or man-made disasters. And of course, the ambition of this Copernicus initiative is to actually contribute to the European Union's role of a global soft power, which is very important tool or approach to make sure that this kind of initiatives are positively influencing towards the environment across the whole Earth, not just the European space. I would propose, and I forgot to mention that during this webinar we will launch also the possibility to raise the questions. So anybody who would like to have any questions, feel free to do so. But meanwhile, you are not talking, please mute your mics. For the Copernicus, it's very important to bear in mind that the data made available through this program are under the free and open license. It means the data can be used for any additional purpose, and it's supposed to be used this initiative also as a tool for further economic development and also as a driver for the digital economy. It's important also to mention that this initiative was launched in May 1998 in Baveno in Italy by Baveno Manifesto, and you can later on follow the link which is made available with this slide to get a better overview in very short but nice 5 minutes video. For the Copernicus itself as a program, it composed from 3 main sort of pillars, where the first component is representing the space one, whilst this component is providing the environment for development, launching, and maintenance of the satellites across the whole space environment. Whilst the second pillar is providing the set of services which provides some sort of added value on top of the data collected through the space component. The third important pillar is called in situ pillar, which is providing the information resources collected on the ground, on the Earth, and they are acting as an additional information source, which shall provide the full picture about the data and information availability about our environment. Briefly, for each component, the first one, the space component, is currently represented by a set of satellites which already has been or are foreseen to be launched to their orbits, and they provide the essential information input for the imagery and any additional information received from their missions. It's also important to mention that this launchment of the satellites is a long-term process which is foreseen to be developed across the time span you can see on this slide, and it's quite ambitious missions which is foreseen to be achieved by the year 2030 with available 27 satellites which provide a complete picture about the information possible to collect from the space environment. For the services, they have been split into the 6 domains, where you can see that there provides information from the atmosphere, marine environment, the land, climate change, and also for the emergency management and the security. Likewise, these Copernicus services are operated by various organizations with multinational coverage, and they provide a very important tool set for the processing and management of the data for particular use cases. With the in situ component, it's important to mention that this segment is still in the phase where actually member states are expected to provide the data collected through the observations and through the monitoring on the ground itself, or in the sea, or during the via airborne sensors. And it's important to ensure that this data flow is coordinated with the data flow received from the space. There is also very important to ensure the validation and data quality, to make sure that usage of these information resources is reliable and the quality of the data fulfills the target use cases. For the data resources, I will now move the word to the colleagues. Especially here, I will ask Tomáš Kliment and Chris Schubert to make sure that they will guide us through information made available for this part of the webinar.
Can you, Chris, start, or?
Yeah, I will start. Thank you, Martin, for the first part and for the introduction. For this hackathon, so we identified a few data resources, and of course, this what is important for the event is also the data access, how to access the data. Is it just a download server or a download process, or really via APIs clouds and so on. But here Thomas will talking a little bit more. So I will start with these with the data sources. I can, Martin, can you go?
You should be able already control the slides if you will start to share your screen.
Okay. I have to share my screen?
Yeah, you shall be able to do that. If not, I can move the slides.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just change to the next one, or?
Okay.
Yes, yeah, please. So in the end, yeah, a nice tool for Sentinel data is the Copernicus Scientific Data Hub or Open Access Hub. It's called here. There you can filter. There you can filter by the Sentinel emissions 1, 2, 3, the different sensors, the different platform you can choose, and of course the area of interest, the date, and you will get here, as you can see in the picture, some rough ideas, previews on the available satellite data. So it's a nice tool. Coming back to these Copernicus services, the services or the Copernicus services are some products, the top of products to the Sentinel data. And here I put some links, for atmosphere, for marine, quite important and a big effort the Commission made with this climate data store. It's a nice, really nice and interesting platform. They launched also now in September. It's quite fresh. This the 3C S server, so it's really nice. You can create your own analysis, and of course you can have an access to via APIs, and also with normal download and then preview function. Please, the next. And the other services here for land use, land cover, they're providing also a lot of data sets. One example is here for a quite new product for Natura 2000, a kind of protected area atlas, but also land cover, land use are provided there for emergency, and I don't know what is inside. For me, it was not my field, and security, of course, it's not so public available. Please, the next. Quite large data catalog is the Inspire catalog. Inspire is a European directive. The aim or objective of the Inspire directive is really to have this, to make data sets or public available, at least governmental data sets, and in a kind of interoperable way. So there are services and so on. And this GeoPortal was also launched last week. And it gives also a nice overview of downloadable data, and also for the symbol with this eye. There are few services available. So it's an interesting data source, and why not? We should try to use it. Okay, the next. Another source can be the open data initiatives. One central data portal is here the open data monitoring, and here are open data set, especially mostly governmental data sets are listed here, and it's a nice overview to have something, and in the end it's a central access point also for Europe for this open data. And you can also see on the way if it's machine readable, if how is it available, is the quality of metadata okay and fine, and yeah. So, and a short or a small thing is I want to introduce here is data server, or the data center in Austria. I'm responsible for this, for climate change information. And of course, we have a focus on Austria, and we have here a lot of climate models, high resolution models for Austria, but also for global and European data sets. So our colleagues will be also there at the hackathon. And if you need some help, so according opened up access, so and subsetting servers, also with we provide the availability for Jupyter services to real calculating, computing directly on the server, so with and to play a little bit with the data set. Yeah, that's this was my point, and here I will give the word to Thomas.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was a very nice overview of a huge, let's call it a world of data available across the internet services. And now I would try to go little bit more deeper into the ways how we actually can use it and access it, since you may have understood from the description of Chris that there is a plenty of data, and they are stored in a different way due different reasons, due the way that how the data are collected by different sensors, then the applicability of the data, you have data that are applicable for land analysis, and data for water, for weather, etc. So European Commission understood that the Copernicus program had gone finally to a operational phase where there is a plenty of data being collected on daily basis and being shared using the portal that the Scientific Hub portal that Chris presented to you. And they also understood that in order to make small businesses and startup faster to develop and base their programs, base their projects on this data, because this data is rich on information, but it's very difficult to dig out of it, this information, because it's very difficult to host them, to store them. So for that reason, the European Commission supported so-called DIASs, where basically the DIAS means a data and information access service, and it's foreseen by the Commission, for which, as I said, with collaboration with the European Space Agency, they launched a call of tender, where actually already 4 DIASs or 4 industry-led platforms were selected to implement it into the practice. And as I said before, the main goal of the DIAS is to support the development of Copernicus-based user applications and enable research, but also, and this is very important point there, the business. So they are trying to somehow also bring an added value of all this information that, also to the businesses. Because so far we know that also the GMSE, as a previous name of Copernicus program, was mainly built for the research purposes. And in this webinar, I'm gonna very shortly introduce you one of those four DRCs, one of the four platforms that had been deployed from four industry-led platforms who got support from the European Commission and are supposed to provide the services. Its name is Onda, and it's basically a cloud platform which should enable users to host the data, so to host their own data, but as well as build their own applications. And this is the point, use the new applications based on the data collected by the Copernicus program as well. There is not only Copernicus program, of course, providing lots of data, satellite remote sensing data, but this was the main goal of the Copernicus DRS program, to promote the usage of this data. And also very important is that this platform should provide and should aim to provide a way of data access and data processing at the different levels. Going from the academic to the research, where probably researchers are more into maybe writing a code, to the public administration, where maybe these people would, rather than writing a code, get directly an information which can be a result of the processing applied on the data set. Next slide, please. Okay, very shortly, I tried to go through the availability of the data that we will also provide to our participants at the hackathon through the Onda DS platform. And I would like to use this opportunity and thank to the provider who has offered us for now a single virtual private server, but based on the need, we may request an extension. Basically, what this platform is offering to the user from the data standpoint, it's Sentinel-1 data, which are the radar data, and basically it offers a global coverage with the temporal stamp starting from June 2016. Then it's a Sentinel-2 data, which is the optical sensor data, with a global coverage again, with two types of products, one with the top level corrections of the atmosphere, and the second with the bottom level correction of the atmosphere. Then regarding the Sentinel-3 platforms, there are more than two, but I listed those two as the most important from the application standpoint. Is the water optical data for the water applications with the full and the reduced resolution, where the coverage is I don't want to say only, but it's the temporal coverage is the year 2018. Then there is another mission which is actually handled by the USGS. U.S. Geological Survey organization, and it's called Landsat 8, where there is also a opportunity to use the data for the year 2018 on the global coverage. Regarding the Envisat, I must say I have not much of experience from Envisat sensor. It was a previous program of the ESA, but there is also some data available for years 2009, 2010 global, and the services data, what actually Chris has described on the platform, we can access the marine Copernicus data, so data about the level of the sea, the ice coverage, the color of the sea water, as well as the Copernicus land for several environmental vegetation indexes like NDVI, LI, etc. Next slide, please. Okay, now how to get down to it? How actually what I described before was what we have available, but now we have to find out how to access it. One of the way is using services or let's call it applications. The Onda platform offers users a catalog service where you can find a link there, where basically you can apply basic, also advanced filter parameters, and you can actually download the data. But this might be needed, of course, but we try to focus on how to directly read the content of the data directly from the infrastructure that the provider offered. So that's the second point, the data provision, which means easy access to data without the need for download, because you as a data processor or image data processor should not spend time on downloading data, but should be able directly to find the data you need and read the content and apply the models that you develop. The third level of services are tools. So once we have the data discovered, then we know that we can access the data, so we can read the content. Then we also need the tools where we apply our models in order to provide the output. So basically, the platform provides processing tools. Most of you probably know the geospatial data abstraction library, GDAL. Then for the development, that can be Python, R, or whatever else you like. And regarding the dissemination, you may deploy yourself a catalog applications or a viewing based on open layers, or as Chris mentioned before, even for Jupyter Hub or Jupyter Notebooks, there are leaflet-based extensions that you can use to visualize the first results of your analysis to understand whether the model is correct and tune it up, or even for a final dissemination to the users. Regarding the administration, this is more for when you're gonna use more than one. I would say the virtual private server, as you're using cloud as an infrastructure, you may have a need of softwares to monitor the status of your processing nodes, of your management nodes, etc. So for that, you may use a tool called Grafana. Regarding the APIs, what actually we may directly query from our code, the platform provides a web map service, which I tested today, and it has some problems to visualize some data sets, but we had reported that to the provider, and we still we will see what will be the answer, and we will try to solve this problem together and help them. Then, very important part is the discovery service, which is basically used from your code to query the database of metadata, and from those understand what's available within your area, within your time frame, within your qualitative parameters like cloud cover percentage, and etc. Very last point is the Elastic Node service, which is actually it's a file system that Onda is using, and it's actually a broker of the standard paths where the data are physically stored into a so-called virtual or pseudo paths. You will see an example in the next slide. Okay, I try to place the very, very simple example of the query. It's a HTTP GET request where in the URL or in the request above, in the first one, I'm trying to find Sentinel-2A family platform products of the level L2A. And I am also restricting the qualitative information to up to 50% of the cloud cover percentage. And the time period is starting from January this year, as well as I restrict the spatial coverage of the data to a polygon, which is defined in well-known text WKT. The second link is very same as the first one, just it is extended. If you can see that the name filter is extended by L1C. So I'm not querying only the level 2A Sentinel-2 data, but I'm also querying plus L1C. Okay, next slide. And here you can see a single record which has been responded. And this is very important for you. So first, what's important information here is the name, of course. The name normally normally in the Sentinel world, the name is the unique identifier of a product. Of course, it doesn't mean that this product cannot become in a different state, like to be updated, etc. But if this happens, even the name will change, because the name contains of several strings defining the processing level, defining the product type, defining the production date, defining the acquisition date, etc. The second very important part here is the pseudo path. This is something that I talked before when I talked about this Elastic Node server application, which is used in the file system on the platform. Here, basically, you will have to fetch the final location of the data set that you are interested in. Next slide, please. And here is an example of using it, so of the data provision. So now I searched, I found what I need, and then now I need to build the final path. And here you can see the final path definition. Basically, in the virtual private server that you would be accessing, you would have the base data directory, which is called host mount point. Then you apply the pseudo path from the previous slide that you fetch from the response of the discovery server. Then you apply in the file system of Onda the name, if you remember from the previous slide, .zip. So it's the name of the package, which is the original package coming from the provider ESA. And then you apply the name plus .safe. .safe is the product family, data specification product family of ESA. And there you can see an example of the final path where exactly, thank you, you can find the actual data. And this is the data. So if you list the path that you built based on the query response, you can get to the data, which is an input to your analysis. This is the input to whatever you need to do. I mean, you may do a cloud-free selection of Sentinel-2 data over Slovakia. So, you would, based on the query, you would get a list of products and arrive to here and then apply other steps. Next slide, please. Okay, regarding the processing, so fine. One thing is, as I described before, one thing is that we are able to understand what we want. Based on this, we set up the query to the catalog. Based on the query response of the catalog, we fetch the paths to the data sets. Then we have a list of data, so we may start to work on it. And in order to work on it, we need to use normally we use geospatial libraries or analysis libraries. As I mentioned before, the GDAL abstraction library is actually very powerful and very extended library, which is developed in language C, but it has bindings to for instance to Python language, so you can directly call functions from the Python language, and this is already being available from the virtual machine that we will have provided for the hackathon, as well as we can run Python free code. And regarding the C and C++ code, there's been installed a compiler. Regarding the other tools, there we might think of providing, as Chris has mentioned, that is being provided from their data platform, the Jupyter Hub with its Jupyter Netbooks, where basically you could directly from your web browser type a code, use both internal functions available from the host, so which in this case could be GDAL, Python, as well as use an external options of libraries that are ported to Jupyter, like Leaflet. So you would be able practically display intermediate results on a map and then share it with the user, for instance. Next slide, please. Okay, I try to propose two questions for now. What question would be? First question would be: what data do you find essential for your project ideas based on the presentations that we gave you? What would you see as what had burnt up some ideas in your brain that would be useful as an input? And what environments, this is linked to the previous slide, would you like to have ready for you? Yeah, thank you very much, and I bring the word to Martin.
Okay, Tome and Chris, thanks a lot for a really interesting introduction of the of the work you already done so far, and I'm sure that this will provide some very useful input for the hackathon participants. For the questions, definitely we will keep them and communicate also before the event, but also during the event, to make sure that the participants can easily and fastly find the data for their projects they would like to work on. Excuse me. For time being, we've identified 10 project ideas, and we want to make sure that during the time we will have available in Bratislava, we will be able to deliver the most of the original project ideas by the end of the event. Just to complete, excuse me, we will share these slides together with the resources used for the first webinar immediately after the webinar, plus as soon we will process the video recording, this will be also shared with the participants. To conclude, there is still 1 week to go for the event itself. We are planning to have the second webinar, which will be providing additional interesting information about other DIAs called Sublo, and as well as already mentioned, the Climate Data Store platform. So please stay with us, keep eye on what's happening during the next week. And with that, we would like to see all of you in Bratislava during the 1st October weekend. Thanks a lot for time being, and let's stay in touch.